Thank you, everybody. I want to thank Boogie on Rosie Woman.
And you're from Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm originally from Texas.
Were you born there?
I've been living in Ohio 36 years now this year. Yeah, I was born and raised in Texas, but I've been living in Ohio longer now than I did in Texas. I think I left Texas when I was about 20, 21.
What part of Texas?
San Marcos, Central Texas. It's in between Austin and San Antonio.
It's funny. You don't really have... I thought, obviously California is a big state. I have a lot of respect for Texas too. Like, you don't realize how big of an area that is until you drive through it. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And, so when we moved to Ohio, it was great because I live in West Central Ohio and everything's within an hour and a half to Cincy, Columbus, Toledo, Detroit's 2.5 hours, Chicago's 4.5 hours, Pittsburgh's a 5-hour drive. So it's like when we moved here, it's like we could go to shows now.
Right. It's funny you bring that up. It was Thursday. I saw this post for, it was showing how cheap Sphere tickets were. And I pinged my girlfriend. I was like, hey, let's be spontaneous. Let's go to the Sphere Saturday night. And she was like, all right. And, which, it's pretty, and it's relatively, you can get a ticket, airline ticket for under $400. But oh my God, I started looking at hotels. I started adding up in my mind. I was like, oh, this is a $1,500, $2,000 trip.
Right.
I can't do that right now. But man, have you been there yet? Have you checked that place out?
I have not been there.
Ooh, we're going to have to go.
I know. I'm like, those visuals. I've been watching it I've been catching the bits and pieces of the stream, but I mean, I can't stay up that late. but those visuals look amazing. And I'm just like asking myself, so, if I get in there, am I going to get like vertigo, or am I going to get, is it going to be too much? So I'm just
Right.
kind of, curious how that would affect me, just because, I don't know. I feel like I would get vertigo or get dizzy or something. But then I also feel like I'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I was looking at the tickets on Vivid or something, whatever site it was, and like you could get floor tickets for like $60, but it looks like the most expensive tickets are like that first balcony where I guess you can see everything. When you're up there, that was like $1,500. But just to be in the building, I think would be cool to check that out.
I think so too. Yeah, I saw my friend had a ticket. He's like, I've got a ticket for $67. I'm like,
crazy.
That sounds great, but I can't get there.
Yeah, I think they're building one on the eastern side of the United States. I can't remember the location, but I saw a post. They're talking about building another one, so maybe that'll be a little closer for us.
I heard that too, and I want to say that like two different. I want to say somewhere in Tennessee, or was it New York? I can't remember which. Can't remember, yeah. But I did hear something about that.
You and I have something in common. You grabbed my attention because you're a poker player, and I don't play anymore, but I used to love playing poker. It's such a fun game. How often do you do that?
Oh my God. I play there's a place down the street that has Monday and Wednesday tournaments, and every week, the tournaments are different. Mm-hmm. But I've been playing for like over 30 years, and I play like maybe 3 to 5 times a month if I can.
Did you ever play online? Did you ever get into that?
I did. And I mean, it was just, I forget what site it was, but it was like right before all the whole Black Friday stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing. I mean, I'd win like maybe $200 at a little small tournament, but yeah, that was another addiction that I got. I got on online poker, and it was just I couldn't stop playing. But I wasn't winning like any big crazy money. But then Black Friday happened, so I got away from that. Thank God.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I do Gamblers Anonymous meetings just because I can. It's my one addiction. Like I never was really big into drinking. Never really had like a drug problem. I don't know, define problem. But gambling was one of those things that I just could never kind of control. It was like I would just play until I was out of money. And anyway, I had to get a little help. I love talking about it, and I love watching your posts because it reminds me. And there's something different when you're sitting at the felt and you're everybody. There's all that noise. Everybody's shuffling their chips the whole time they're playing. But I do miss that. That was a lot of fun playing those tournaments.
Well, I play with a bunch of old grumpy businessmen who have deep pockets. And some of the tournaments are like add-ons or rebuys till break, and I can't afford to be doing that.
Right.
I can't afford to be adding. So I usually show up like right before the end of break when, they can't add on anymore or whatever. And because, you know how men with deep pockets, they don't give a fuck. They're going to pull more money out of their pocket. And, if they're on a flush draw or whatever kind of draw, they don't give a fuck. They're going to go all in. And I'm like, motherfucker, I already got a hand. Now you're giving me this bullshit because I know how you play. And it's like, you're going to cost me my hand. And, I can't, you second guess yourself and they're on bullshit. But it's like, it's my tournament life. And do I want to risk it?
I used to watch.
So, I get a lot of that.
Yeah.
And, and I find with men also, they underestimate me. So,
for sure.
And they piss me off too. So, but I can ramble on about them all the time. But so they underestimate me, and you never know what I'm gonna do, and I don't, because I can play any two hands, and they just don't know. I confuse them.
Yeah.
And then I did that last week because I was on a straight draw, and I hit my straight on the turn. I either hit my straight on the turn or the river, but the river gave my opponent 3 of a kind. And this is where the underestimating part comes in with these men. They never think I have it. So he like went all in or raised or something on his set. And I called or moved all in, and then I like flipped over my straight, and he was like, "Oh fuck, that's right, sit down, you're out."
That's one of the things I found with poker too, and I would catch myself doing it, was the reluctance to fold because you wanted so bad to know that you were beat. Like I could know that I probably didn't have the best hand, but I wasn't going to get outplayed. And so I would call a lot when I probably should have folded. There was a time I played a tournament down in Tampa one time. I totally got duped. So this guy, and I'll always remember this, called this guy down to the river, and he said straight or flush or whatever without flipping his cards over. And I immediately mucked my hand, and I had the best hand. He had to flip his cards over to show, and he didn't have shit. But he said flush or straight or whatever it was, and I just angrily pushed my cards in. And I remember thinking, you slick motherfucker. That was pretty good. You got me.
Oh, man, I hate that. And, you always got to remember, if you can, flip your cards over because the cards read themselves.
That's right. Hey, as much as you want to tell it, and I wanted to tie. So you and I have both had the opportunity to speak to Tamara. I have a soft spot in my heart for people that overcome adversity. I love a good comeback story, and your story. I don't want to, as much as you want to get into it. I'm curious to hear the story. I've been divorced a couple times. I'm curious to hear your story because it kind of leads into what caused you to embark on the Rosie Woman podcast. I think you said that, you'd been married for a while and that ended in divorce. As much as you want to talk about that, do you want to talk a little bit about, kind of the drinking that you had going on, kind of that period in your life? I don't want to start your Sunday off, on a sad note.
Because, I love sharing my story because if somebody else is going through it, it might, click with them going, wait a minute, that's the kind of situation I'm in right now.
Totally.
I don't have to put up with this bullshit either.
Totally.
But, so I met my ex-husband in Texas. We both worked for a newspaper in San Marcos, Texas. And that's where we met. He was the sports editor. I worked it was called the composition department back then. And that's like where we did the ads for the newspaper. It was like way back in the 80s when, the technology we have now would have made my job so much easier. But, that was like a lot of work to build a grocery store ad back then.
Oh, because you're laying out pieces to make the page, right? Back then?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And like typing like linotype or whatever tape and pasting them and, using X-Acto knives and all that kind of stuff.
Crazy.
Right. But so he was finishing up his degree. And when he graduated, he grew up. His dad was an Army person. And so they lived in San Antonio. And when he was growing up in the mid 70s, the Big Red Machine was on TV all the time, and they were winning. So he became a Reds fan because that was like the only baseball that was on TV, I guess, at the time. So when he graduated from college, I asked the publisher if the company owned any newspapers in Ohio, and they happened to own the Wapakoneta Daily News, and they were looking for a sports editor, and I was just, I don't know what I didn't really have plans for the future. I just like graduated and got a job, and that was just all I was doing. I wasn't thinking, what am I going to do now? I'm just working and buying purses and still living at home. But, I met my ex-husband and, we had moved in together within like 8 months or something crazy. And when he graduated from college, we moved to Wapakoneta, Ohio. And we both started working at the newspaper and going to Reds games. So that's where my love of baseball and the Reds. And, he introduced me to a lot of things. I wasn't like fresh off the boat when I met him. I knew some stuff and I'd been to some things. But, he introduced me to music, the Grateful Dead, and then, once Jerry passed away, we started listening to Phish and we go to concerts. And like I said earlier, like we moved to this area and everything's so close and we could drive to things, not like in Texas where we lived. Dallas was like 5 hours drive. But so we moved to Ohio and started going to a lot of Reds games. And, I used to drink back then too, but I wasn't like, it didn't get bad till the very end. But I'm not exactly sure what happened with my marriage. And I think I was just oblivious because, I was overweight and I honestly don't know because he just started treating me poorly. Right. And I just took it.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I'm overweight. He crushed my confidence. And I was just, I'm just in it. I'm going to be with this man. And this is how I'm going to live. So I don't know. But then, years later, I was married for 30 years. And
that's a long time.
That is a long time. Yeah. So I don't know. It was just, he was a narcissist, emotionally, verbally abusive. And because I drank, I thought, I'm getting yelled at because I was drunk. So I deserve this. and it was just day by day. And then I got my second DUI in October 2019. And then, that's when everything just hit the fan. But, I say it's the best and worst day of my life because I was forced to get sober because I couldn't get my driver's license back. I had to go to court. I was on probation. I had a breathalyzer on my car for like 2 years. So I got sober and, my mind got clear. And, he was still treating me poorly. But now that I'm sober, I'm like, wait a minute. Some of this stuff that you're saying didn't happen the way that it did happen that you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when I called him out on it, and then I just got yelled at. So, I'm like, you know what? I don't have to put up with this anymore. And I was still at that point trying to save this marriage. I should have got out of after 3 years, frankly, because, there was infidelity, not on my part, but I don't know why I tried to save this marriage. But I'm glad I finally got out because I got my life back, and I'm just a social person anyway. And I was always posting on Facebook, and I just started posting about, what I was going through, what happened. And I was getting positive feedback from people and, the community. So I just continued and it just kind of grew into what it is now.
I've done, I'm curious to get your take on this. I've researched narcissism a bit and I've listened to some podcasts because I never really understood what it meant. And one of the things I kind of came to understand is that there's a lot of different flavors of a narcissistic personality. Like with what you were going through, like what kind of stuff, if you could talk about it, like what kind of behavior were you subject to that you attributed to narcissism? I don't think I still understand narcissism fully, but what's your take on it? What does it mean to you?
Well, you know how my personality is now. I'm really an outgoing person, and that's how I pretty much always was. But he kind of like shut me down. He would tell me, "Oh, you're not funny." I'm pretty fucking funny. I think I'm hilarious.
You are. I can attest to your meme game is strong.
Oh my God, I love memes.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
But yeah, no, he's like, "You're not funny." And when I was like getting into like Facebook and meeting all these new people from the Phish groups and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, this person, we're gonna have a meetup at whatever show, and these are my friends." And he's like, "Those people aren't your friends." I'm like,
oh God.
So, he would just say things like that to me, and like he would always, and I grew up in Texas, San Marcos, Texas. I'm Hispanic, and he would always. And I always took it as a joke, but now I'm thinking, that was pretty mean. He would always say, if it wasn't for him, I'd be at a quinceañera every weekend.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, it's just like stuff like that it didn't click to me until after everything that happened. I'm like, so I was just like, basically, I don't know, this is how I'm getting treated. I was accepting it.
Right.
Because, he just beat me down so much and killed my confidence. And, I lost my spark.
Yeah,
but I got everything back.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just having this conversation with Ashley. We were discussing what makes people stay in relationships, especially when there's stuff that going on that makes you miserable. And I think my point, we're going back and forth, kind of talking about it. And I remember saying, sometimes, especially me having been through a divorce, you're scared to be out on your own again. So I feel like some people stay because they're scared of the other side, like getting back out there and being alone. I don't know, maybe that was a fear I had, but it's interesting to me. And I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts and stuff. It's interesting to me what people will allow themselves to put up with for whatever reason. But yeah, I'd feel you on that. And it's funny, you get clarity when you got sober to look back and think, oh wow, that and this and that was going on.
Right. Right. And it's nice because I have a little witness, my son,
right.
He was, he went through it too. But you don't think about their feelings or what they're going through or how they're reacting to the situation. You're just trying to save something that is not savable anymore.
Right.
And then I finally realized that, and that's what happened is I said, you have to make a choice. There's 3 people in this relationship now, and it wasn't me, him, and my son. It's like, and I don't know why I still try to keep saving this marriage, but he made his choice and he walked out the door. And that's when I accepted my loss because, I can't keep fighting for a one-sided fight. I accepted my loss. I moved on. And now I'm living my best life ever.
I love that. And I was surprised you had made a post. I was really surprised when you said, what have you lost? Like 250, 300 pounds? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was, I had gastric bypass surgery like 15, 16 years ago,
Okay.
And that was part of the troll trying to regain my marriage back because, I was over 300 pounds. And, I was like, okay, I need to do this for my health and to see if, I can get my husband back.
That's amazing.
Well, for 2 years, I was sober for 2 whole years. I was exercising every day. I was looking the way I look now, and I was still getting no attention from the one person that's supposed to love me for the rest of my life. I thought I was still getting no attention.
Right.
So my friends asking me, let's go out to girls' night out. So I started going out to girls' night out, and I started drinking again. And I was going out on the weekends with my girlfriends and started drinking again. And, and then I think at that point, I was just so far into the marriage, and you see other marriages this is how people live, and they're miserable, but they're still together. And that's just how I had settled in my mind that it was going to be. I got a DUI, the first one, and then he wasn't happy, but we got through it. But then when I got that second one, that's when it just all fell apart.
Yeah, I think you remember saying that was kind of the breaking point. So what led to what made you, you told this before, but I forgot. What led you to start the podcast? Was that kind of like a rebirth for you, like doing a podcast?
Well, every time I hit a milestone of 1 year more of sobriety, I started doing, like my first year of sobriety, I invited some friends over and had a little fire out in my backyard to celebrate my 1 year. And then I can't remember if I did anything for the second year, but for the third year, Jennifer Hartswick's band was playing at a little place in Dayton called Brightside. And I just happened upon it that week or something. And I'm like, you know what? For my 30-year anniversary, I'm going to go see Jennifer Hartswick. So I did that. And then I can't remember if I did anything for 4 years. But for my 5th year, I thought, I'm going to be 5 years sober. It's a big accomplishment for me.
Sure.
So I thought, and with everything that I was doing with social media and all the positive feedback I was getting, and everybody telling me, people saying I'm an inspiration and I've helped them, and I thought, well, I've got to do something to keep bringing awareness and to keep helping other women get out of the situation that I was in. If I can do that and help other people, I'll start a podcast. And I had never listened to a podcast before that also.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I wasn't really sure what I was doing or getting myself into. But I have a coworker, my friend Virginia, and she did the podcast at work. So I just went up to her one day and I said, I have this idea, and I know you did the podcast at work, and I'd like, if you would like to come in and help with me and hop on the Rosie train and see where this goes. He was like, yeah, sure.
And a good play title, good play on a song from Phish, Boogie on Reggae Woman. That's funny.
When I was trying to think of a name, I thought, well, Ramble on Rosie, but I thought, that's more Grateful Dead. Mm-hmm. And I forget what other things I was coming up with, but I was on my friend Ian, who's now one of my co-hosts. He said something about, we were commenting on a Facebook post, and I can't remember what the post was, but he said something, Boogie on Rosie Woman or something. And then I'm like, that's it.
Thinking back to the first time you saw them, I think you said it was in 95. And I had kind of a similar trajectory. I was younger, but I'd seen the Grateful Dead with Jerry. Like when you think back to that time, I know it's been 30 years, but how different was that? Or was it, did it feel like the same kind of family going from the Grateful Dead to Phish? Or like, what was the music like to you when you first heard it?
I have like a little visual of me and my first show was 11/9/96 at the Palace of Auburn Hills. And I wasn't really like too familiar with Phish and their music yet. Like I said, my ex-husband was that was the music person in the family. And I was drinking at that time still. So I remember I was probably had a little bit too much to drink. And I kind of remember falling asleep at one point during the show. Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, so it was like, no wonder that man was annoyed with me. But, and I did, but I don't think I was too familiar with any of their songs. But honestly, my takeaway from that moment or that show wasn't really anything big. If I would have known what it would turn into, I would have appreciated it more. But I do remember I did get a Divided Sky that first show. So it kind of like, I got a Divided Sky my first show. So kind of like, I don't know if it's like a full circle moment, but, with all the work that I've been trying to help, promoting Divided Sky or, telling people about Divided Sky and helping with the Women's Scholarship Fund, that was something really great also that last year in September, Lauren Bartizoli had reached out to me and asked, if I could help post about the Women's Scholarship Fund, on my social media and promote it and stuff. And I'm like, of course I can.
Such a cool organization.
It is.
And you've worked their table before, right? Or their tent a couple times?
I did. The first time I did it was Deer Creek. I think was that 2024. Mm-hmm. And that was my first time. And I think I worked two shows that weekend. And I met my friend Mary working that table. And, I think I just saw a post, happened to see a post that, they were looking for volunteers. And I just signed up. And kind of now whenever I see that they need volunteers, I'll sign up. And if I can get on the table, I'm more than happy to be of service.
I think I said this to Curtis Cockrell when I spoke with him too. Like, what a good, in terms of kind of keeping your North Star on sobriety as you move through life, like what a great inspiration Trey is too. Just with everything that he went through, it makes it. I find myself appreciating Phish more because I know that he went through that crazy journey and started Divided Sky. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as I tried to overcome my demons, it's cool to have a band that kind of has that same North Star, I suppose is what I'm trying to articulate.
Yeah, I mean, Trey, seeing him up there, after going through everything that I was going through and, getting sober, and like the first 3 years were really rough because, you go from 2 incomes to 1 and the struggle is really hard.
Yeah.
Still kind of, not struggling financially, but I would see Trey up there on stage and he's got this smile that just is infectious and it would make me happy. So being at a show I forget everything else that's happening in my life. I watch Trey, I see him smile, I love the music, and I'm in my happy place for a couple of hours. I forget everything else that, causes me stress, and I just enjoy the moment. For
sure. Talk about that, and you had the opportunity to meet Bootsy Collins and his wife, who subsequently had you on her podcast. What was that encounter like? Like, what he seems like he's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, Bootsy's so nice. So I'm in the opening day parade every year with the Rosie Reds, and the fun part about the parade is we always get there early, and we mill around because you get to meet a bunch of people. Like Anthony Munoz, we see him every year, so now he recognizes us and knows who we are. And like Marty Brenneman and Amanda, they know who we are because, we're the Rosie Reds and we see them all the time at different events. But this was like maybe, I want to say like 12 or 13 years ago. I was rushing back to the Rosie Red float and I was going in one direction and Bootsy and Patti were coming in the other direction. And, Bootsy was wearing his big top hat. And I'm like, was that Bootsy Collins? And I turned around, and I don't run, but I turned around and chased Bootsy down, and Patti took a picture of me and Bootsy. So that was like 12, 13 years ago. So ever since I've kind of been chasing Bootsy to get my picture. I printed out a picture and got it autographed, but I can never find him at the parade. And, so last year I finally made I said, this year I'm going to find Bootsy and, I'm going to get my picture autographed. I'm going to say hi, introduce myself. So I finally found out where their float was, and I was waiting there forever, and he didn't come. I saw Patti there and some of his family members, and Patti's beautiful. And so I was just standing there. I was there with my Rosie outfit on, like all baseballed up with my foam wig, and she asked if she could take a picture with me, and I'm like, sure. And then I was like, are you Bootsy's wife? And she said yes. And she's like, he wasn't coming because he was working on an album or something, so he wasn't going to be able to make it. So, I started telling her my little Bootsy story, and I showed her, the picture. And then she's like, tell that story again. And she recorded it on her phone so she could tell Bootsy. But anyway, I was telling her, I started a podcast, and she's like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. She's like, if you come on my podcast, I'll come on yours. And
Hell
I'm
yeah.
like, okay. So I got to be on her podcast. I went to her Bootsy's house. I was like at Bootsy's house in his recording studio.
Oh, no shit. Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, so, it's just crazy that all of what where I'm at now at this point, because she's going to come on my podcast, and we're still working on, locking down a time. She's pretty busy. And, but May 9th, she asked me to be on her team, a 5K that they're doing for mental health in Cincinnati.
Yes.
So hopefully I'll be walking with her then. But yeah, so Bootsy, they invited me to, she had a fundraiser last summer at Ludlow Garage in Cincinnati. She does work for like women's, she's a survivor of domestic violence. So she, does philanthropy work on that. And that's kind of what her podcast is about. Also, she speaks to survivors. And her podcast is Anybody Out There?
Yes, that's awesome. Did you ever, switching gears a little bit, have you ever heard Bootsy Collins tell the story of him and his band drinking Orange Sunshine backstage, and then a night they were playing with James Brown and him coming back and drinking a bunch of their Orange Sunshine? Did you?
I have. I've seen that show, but it's in the cartoon form.
Yeah, that shit cracked me up. And then like I'll put it in the show notes. But what made me laugh so hard about that story was that he completely loses himself in the music. James Brown does. I don't know if he knew that he was high. He didn't confront them about it after the show, but then like came backstage after the show and was like, you guys don't have it.
Yes, and I just saw that like maybe a few months ago again, but that is freaking hilarious.
I love a good story.
Like Bootsy in cartoon form, and he's like, James Brown, doesn't do any drugs or anything, and Bootsy and the guys had just like filled their drink up with something, and James Brown's like, let me have a drink of that.
Did you, at the beginning of your podcast, it's the show starts out with Trey giving a shout out to Boogie on Rosie Woman. Is he talking about you?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. When was that? How'd that happen? That
was the Beacon Jams last October. Was that October? So you know how they were raising funds for the Women's Scholarship Fund, and they're like, if make a donation, maybe Trey will read your note on screen or whatever. And I was just texting my friend Victoria, and I said, because I was going to send the donation in Friday, but I was over at my friend's couch touring, and I'm like, my card's way over there. I'm not getting up. So Saturday, I'm like, I was texting Victoria. I said, I'm about to make a donation to Trey. So my note was, thanks for getting sober, Trey, and providing a community for us, or something like that. And then I signed it Boogie on Rosie Woman. And like literally a few minutes later, my son Sal and I are sitting on the couch watching the show, and he didn't read my note, but then he said, and I'd like to thank Boogie on Rosie Woman. And I turned to Sal, I'm like, did you hear that?
Best soundbite ever.
Yeah, I was like, so yeah, my friend Mike added that on. He's like my editor, producer. He added that on, and I'm just like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I screamed so loud.
Growing up in Athens, I was a Panic guy before I got into Phish, but I had friends that were in college that turned me on to Phish. And I always think it's funny, whenever I meet somebody that hasn't listened to Phish or hadn't listened to Panic or some of these long form bands, jam bands, if you will, the question tends to be, well, what songs do you like of theirs? I'll check them out. And trying to, it's almost impossible to tell them like a few songs because there's just so many, and so many mean so many different things to me depending on like where I am in my life or like the mood I'm in. But when you think about the Grateful Dead and Phish, did you ever have any favorites? Ones that stood out to you or maybe had some meaning to you that kind of popped out to you?
I like Backwards Down the Number Line. A lot of people always like, give that, I don't know, but I just like a really good one that I can dance to. And, I like More. I like Miss You. There's just so many. They all offer so many different things to you as a music fan that it's hard to pick a favorite.
I think Hoist was the first album I got or had, but that was like, a ice chip off the iceberg. But I love More. Evolve is a good one. But if I have to go to like pure Phish stuff, you're right. It's like Wilson, Tweezer, just Reba. Oh my God, Mike's song is always a favorite. There's just too many to really name a few.
I mean, and when you're at a show and you get a possum, I get a possum a lot, but you're at a show and you're like getting the possum again, and it doesn't matter because that's a fucking kick-ass possum. It's going to be a different possum than it was at the previous show or whatever show you got it at.
That's right. You got any plans to go see them upcoming?
Yeah, we're going to Madison and Deer Creek.
Ooh.
Those are all within driving distance.
Well, it's funny you bring up the work or getting with Patti on May 9th, I think you said.
Yes.
A great reminder to people out there that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I do a little bit of volunteering. I try to advertise for Nucci Space. They're a suicide prevention organization in Athens. Yeah, it's a great time to remember that there's people out there struggling. And one of the things I love about your podcast, or even more so, I think, when you're a guest on other people's podcasts, is your resilience and ability to tell your story. I think you're right. I think it's a noble act because there are people out there that are putting up with a lot of things, and I love your show. It's really, really inspiring.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm just like keep plugging it out there and promoting it and trying to get it to build. And I'm last year, like halfway through, or I forget what, like 6 months into it, I just kind of got lost and wasn't sure what I was going to do and didn't know. I don't know. I'm not very technical. I think you and I talked about this before. It's like I need a teenager to help me figure things out. But so I was trying to, and I was trying to figure out how to fill this with content. You do a podcast, but you got to stay relevant and you got to come up with new things. And I kind of got a period where I didn't think, I was going to continue. But then I just got something happened and I just got back into it. And I brought my friends Ian and Mike, who I met through Phish. Mike I met at in Kentucky, I think in 2020 at a Mike show. His girlfriend recognized me from social media, and then we started talking, and then we just started seeing each other at shows. And he lives in Cincinnati, and we became friends. Ian, I met him at the Bright Side. We went to see Natalie Cressman, me and my friend and my son, and he was sitting next to us, and we became friends. And he lives in Cincinnati also, and I don't know. I make friends pretty easy.
Yeah, no doubt. We had the Braves used to be downtown here, and it was relatively easy to get to. It was one highway you took down in the city. Well, now when you come out of the city of Atlanta, it forks. Left, northwest is I-75, northeast is I-85. Well, they moved the Braves up to off of 75, so now it's like much harder to get there for a game. So I don't get there as much as I'd like to, but I think I'll always have an affinity for baseball because growing up, you couldn't really catch it on TV. Like if we had an antenna and like if the wind was blowing in the right direction and the temperature was right, you could get it on TV. But I would always listen to the radio, and I still like listening to sports like that because I just want to hear the announcers kind of run the game. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I'm jealous that you get to go in person because I wish I could go a little more frequently. But it's an entire day now because they've got it in this awful place.
Oh, and I actually live almost like 2 hours north of Cincinnati, so I'm lucky now that I've got some of my friends, Rachel and BJ. They always let us stay overnight with them, so now we can go to weekend games.
Mm.
And our friend Pat got this package that was available through the Hall of Fame. It included the opening day ticket, the rest of March home games, and all of April home games. And he got 3 of them. So now he's got all these extra tickets,
Wow.
and really nobody to go with that. I'm like, yeah, well, Sal and I will come up for the weekends.
Nice to have friends like that. Yeah.
I know.
Well, if you were, like I said before, I love your story. If you had to, maybe there's women out there struggling with addiction or in an abusive relationship, what kind of advice would you give women that maybe need like help taking that first step? What would you say to somebody like that? And you could separate them out, like, addiction and abusive relationship if you want. But speaking to women directly, like what's your advice when you talk to people like that?
Well, with my ex-husband, he made me feel like I was worthless. So, don't start believing that negativity that people put on you, because you know what kind of person you are. But, I let him make me feel like I was worthless and like I deserved the treatment that I was getting. But, I started drinking heavily. So then, of course, when I'm drinking heavily and now I think, oh, I do deserve to be treated like this because I'm an alcoholic and this man has to deal with me. But it's not all your fault, just I'm not even sure. So when I got sober, that's when my mind got clear. And it is hard with your addictions because, yeah, since I was forced to get sober because, I had to get my driver's license back and I was on probation. I had to meet with a probation officer like once a month. But once my mind got clear, and I thought I didn't really deserve to be treated the way I was treated and yelled at and, all the negative, nasty things that were said to me. Yeah. And I took 30 years of that, walking on eggshells. But through the sober community, I found the fellowship. I never knew I never knew about the yellow balloon tables.
What is it? What is that?
We would go to shows. My ex-husband would just be like, get in, get out. We wouldn't walk around. I didn't know there were tables at shows. But, there is support for women. Don't be afraid to reach out to the fellowship or, there's the Lady Fells. We have a meeting on Sunday mornings at 11 Eastern. It's a Zoom meeting. You can join. If you need the information, just hit me up and I'll get that out to the women. Yeah, like I said, I got my life back through the community being supportive and, Trey being sober. Curtis was a big help. His hosts were always a great help to me. So, don't be afraid to reach out to someone. If you feel it's not always your fault. I think that's what addicts, I don't know, maybe they feel like, oh, it's their fault. I can't get help. There's no hope for me. There is hope, and we do recover.
And one thing I realized, I'm only about a month away from the last time I made a bet. One thing I realized is that much like a car, your sobriety or your addiction recovery path requires maintenance. Like you really need to be careful to stick with something that gives you support. Because I'll have the feelings flare up, or like, oh man, I'd love to do this or do that, so I do weekly GA meetings because I need it. It's like changing my oil. I have to. It refreshes me. It keeps my eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
What's the yellow balloon table? I heard you say that before, but I'm not familiar with that.
The fellowship.
Yeah.
So the fellowship, and I think it started out. I'm like the Wharf Rats. It was the Wharf Rats that a sober community where people can go during set break, and they have meetings. And so the yellow balloon tables are the Phish has the fellowship, and all the different jam bands have different yellow balloon tables. Like Goose has, I think, hot tea.
Okay.
And like Mo is Happy Hour Heroes. String Cheese Incident is the jellyfish. So it's like tables, the tables that are at shows where you can go before the show, and if you need any support, and then at set break they have a meeting. They're not affiliated with AA or anything, but they're there to provide support for the sober community at jam bands. shows.
Fascinating. I did not know that. That's interesting.
Huh.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Well, hey, look, I almost had you an hour. I appreciate you, but I have to say one more time, and I'm glad that we're friends. I love you very much, and I love
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
the way that you tell your story unapologetically, and the way you move with purpose is inspiring, and I get the same feeling from you that I get from Curtis relative to my journey. So I definitely encourage people to follow you. Who are you on Instagram, Facebook? How do people find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Rosie Red 20, and I just got a TikTok a few months ago, and I am a Boogie on Rosie woman. And Facebook is Marie De Leon-Nogueras.
Who do you got? Give us a sneak peek. Who you got coming up on the show next?
Yeah, well, I got Patti. Well, I've got some ideas, and I'm working on stuff, but I want to have some friends come on to talk about ADA, ADA seating and stuff at shows. Because I have a friend, Christina, she's a double amputee, and I know shows are hard to navigate for her, with all the walkie. She's like missing an arm and a leg.
Oh my.
Yeah. So, and I got to get together with the guys because, like I said, they live in Cincinnati, and Mike just moved into a new condo, so he's got to set up his studio back up. I know we were talking about some other stuff also.
Awesome.
I'm just trying to come up with new ideas and stay relevant and create good content. Like I did that show with I have my 40-year high school reunion coming up this year.
Oh, fantastic. That's right. I woke up. I'm so old, Rosie. I got up this morning. There's always the coffee ritual, which I know you appreciate. But I have this. I'm not a dark chocolate guy, but Ashley bought some dark chocolate sea salt caramel thins, and these things are these things are the goddamn devil.
Oh my God, I love those.
Oh, they're so good, so good. Anyway,
I could eat a whole bag of those.
Oh, I know. I will as soon as I get off here. Well, I'm so glad we met. I dig you. I dig what you're doing. Selfishly, I love a lot of the Phish stuff that y'all do because I'm a little behind on Phish, but rapidly gaining ground. And I hope we get to meet sometime. Maybe we'll do a baseball game or I'll meet you at a Phish show or something. It'd be cool to meet you in person.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I know. I need to. I got some friends that live down in Atlanta. Everybody's trying to get me to go there, and I'm like, I want to go everywhere. If I could just win the lottery, that's what I'm trying.
That's all right. Oh my gosh! Well, I'll give you your Sunday back. I'm so happy you were able to make some time and come on here, and I'll hit you up later. I got more questions for you probably, but let's keep in touch.
Absolutely, yeah, no problem. And yeah, you have a great day too.
Rise like fireflies, illuminate our play. Some light being put you up in that party. Said clap your hands if you think your soul is free. And the silence was astounding. Except oh Lord mercy me. And oh you can't stop what's coming up, and you're never gonna stop what's coming up. And oh it's gonna drop, gonna fill your cup, and oh it's gonna drop. The age of miracles, the age of sound. It's a golden age, coming round, coming round, coming round. Give it up, instead of grabbing for decay. What we viewed as gold, I believe pollutes this place, and its grace ascending like a snake up your tree. For your happy ending, understanding all you're supposed to be. Let it move right in. Let it kiss your face. Let it sow your skin. Prepare laughter, like the sun spinning happily into the after. Oh, here it comes, natural disaster. Oh, blowing up like a ghetto blaster. Oh, here it comes, bring it faster. Oh, here it comes, the age of miracles. Age of sound. It's a golden age. Coming round, coming round, coming round. Love, don't you falter. Burning hearts drag behind the horses, dancing on the altar. Who's breaking gods to diamond dust and stars? And there you are. Now all allowed to breathe. Waltzes all with the hunger and the greed. Move your body. You've got all you need. And your arms in the air to a sea of stars. And